Let's talk about the financial side about this that's taking an incredible human toll. Staggering jobless claims number crossing yesterday during our show as we reported 6.65 million people claiming unemployment just last week. The week before that, the Labor Department announced 3.28 million claims, bringing the month of March total to more than 10 million jobless claims. In fact, the past 2 weeks all but eliminated the jobs created in the past 5 years. So, Steve, you have a chart on where the unemployment rate is likely headed from here. How bad do you see it getting?
Sure, Willie. We can talk about that. You know, look, in Meacham's honor, let me be slightly Churchillian and say that we are really at the beginning of the beginning here. You're just seeing the leading edge of what's going to happen. There will be unemployment numbers tomorrow, but they will be relatively benign because they're gathered during the middle of March before most of this hit. But if we look ahead, you can see where we're going from here, which is essentially into double-digit unemployment. And so if you look on the left side of the chart, you can see that we've been sitting at 3.5%. First quarter will still be around 3.7% because for the reasons I said. And then we're just going to go up like a rocket ship. These are Goldman Sachs's projections, but if you look at most other mainstream economists, you're going to see something very much like this. And so in the second quarter of this year, which just started yesterday, day before, we go to 13.2%. And then in the third quarter over the summer, they're projecting we're going to hit 14.7%. And just for reference, you can see the dotted red line across the middle. That's our 2009 peak at 10%. So we're talking about an unemployment rate 50% higher than where we got to during the great financial crisis. And many people say to themselves, well, this is going to be a V-shaped recovery. We're going to bounce back as fast as we bounced down because people will go back to work. But if you look at what these projections show, that's not what we're looking at. We're looking at a long, slow recovery in jobs, unemployment rate going down to 9.5% at the end of this year. And then you can see 7.4 quarter by quarter. At the end of next year, 6.3%, still very high. In 2022, 5.2%. We don't get back to anything like where we are today until 2023, which is a very long time from now. And then just one little political footnote. Donald Trump will probably be facing double-digit unemployment on Election Day this fall, and we can all debate the consequences of that.
So, Steve, a lot of those jobs obviously fall in small businesses that may have to shut their doors through this. They just don't have the money to keep running through this crisis. Let's talk a little bit about the PPP, which is the Paycheck Protection Program. That's the small business loans, $350 billion in that $2.2 trillion stimulus package. They're supposed to go out today. We've heard from big banks that there's chaos, that they don't know the rules. They don't know how to implement this program. I heard from a head of a mid-sized bank in the South, very concerned. They want to get the money to their customers, but they have no guidance at all from Treasury. What are you hearing about how that program is going to roll out?
It's rolling out slowly, as you implied. Look, I would say, a little bit, as Jeffrey was saying, to be two-handed about this. These are new programs. They're very complicated. They're hard to implement. But that said, it is rolling out very, very slowly. And there's enormous confusion among the small business community as to how to access this and getting not a lot of response when they make phone calls or send in emails and things like that. I would also point out that there's $375 billion for that program in the legislation. Most people think that number is way too small, that before this is over, we're going to need something like $1 trillion. And even then, many small businesses are not going to know how to use this. It's not going to be enough. They're not going to want to access it. And so you're going to see business. This is part of what I was talking about before. You're going to see many, many businesses simply shut down and not be able to reopen. And that is an enormous amount of destruction to the economy that's going to be very hard to untangle.
So, Steve, just also trying to map this out, don't you need two important factors as you look into the future as to how bad this, can I use the word depression, will look like without really consistent, complete testing across the board, where you have rapid testing for the coronavirus as well as the antibody testing to know if somebody has had it before? If you don't have that, along with a vaccine, how can you see into the future, too far into it, to see how bad this is going to get? How important are those two factors?
They're critically important. But first, to go back a step, I think someone said this was not self-inflicted. That's absolutely true. The virus was not self-inflicted. But if we had moved faster and more aggressively toward the social distancing, toward all the policies that are now slowly and haltingly, as we were just talking about for the last 15 minutes, come into place,
right.
If we had moved faster, as China ultimately did, we would have seen, I think, better numbers on jobs than what we're looking at here, better numbers on the economy. We would have been able to get people back to work. So yes, from an economic point of view, what you have to be able to know, and we don't know, but you have to be able to have a view about is how quickly people are going to get back to work. And that, in turn, may revolve to some degree around how soon there are vaccines available, how soon there are antibody testing available, how soon people simply feel comfortable going back to work. No economist would profess special insight into that. Public health people do, but as you know, and as we all listen to them, nobody really knows for sure. So we're all dependent on that, on the public health side of this thing working for the economy to work. If we can't solve the public health side, get people to a place where they're comfortable going back to work, then the numbers I showed you could be even worse.
Steve Rattner, thank you very much. And still ahead on Morning Joe, the mayor of New York City, Bill de Blasio, is our guest. Plus, we'll swing over to London for the very latest on the overseas battle against the virus and how it compares to here at home. But first, the Navy just relieved a captain who raised alarms about a coronavirus outbreak on an aircraft carrier. NBC's Courtney Kuby has that reporting next. You're watching Morning Joe. We'll be right back.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.